All right, guys, got a March spring mailbag video. Get some news and notes out there for everybody. Kind of some updates on what's going on. A lot to talk about. A lot of positive. Some a little bit of negative, but some just mainly question marks. Can't really judge a lot of this stuff until we get through the summer with recruiting. Right now, recruiting is a little slow. A little underwhelming, kind of like it was last year. But then we started, killing it in the summer, late summer. So I expect recruiting to pick up. Obviously we're in spring practice right now, so it's just going to take a little time. Guys are getting on campus. I'm hearing a lot of big names out there. So the guys are recruiting hard, and there's a lot, like I said, a lot of talented kids in the mix. Um, a lot of high three, low four-star kids in the mix, which you're going to have some of those. Half the class, to a quarter of the class should have some of those guys. That's just the way every class is, especially in Florida. That's kind of the expectation right now with where we've been and where we're at. We're been in that 10 to 15 range, 10 to 14 range realistically after guys don't make it in and stuff like that. So right now, that's probably the expectation because Florida has not recruited at an elite level. They've got some elite kids in this class from last year. We've got 4 elite prospects right now. I love the base of the class. I probably would expect some commitments by the end of spring practice, maybe 1 or 2 lower four-star guys. But by summer, we should start getting some kids to pop. Some of the bigger names should start making decisions. But this class, to me, the expectation that I have is top five. It has to be a top five class. If it doesn't, you're not going to sustain any kind of elite success at Florida. Being the year that this class is, everybody want to make the excuse about the bump class and all that. Well, that's gone and over with, and it wasn't what it needed to be. So with NIL, some people are factoring that in and saying this is truly the bump class. So we're going to find out after this. If it's not where it needs to be, then recruiting is a disappointment. But we're going to hope for top five. That's what we're shooting for. The base has what it needs to be a top five class if we can add the right kind of players and talent to this, to that list. So we'll see where that goes. Some notes in the news: Gators basketball, NIT, disappointing season. To the way they finished, had a chance to make a run in the tournament with Mississippi State. Really good overtime game, but still a disappointing season. I love Todd Golden. They're out on the trail right now, 2 transfers, trying to get some guys in, and I do think he'll flip this roster and turn it over, and it's going to be a big time, turnover as far as like the success next season. I think you guys are going to be shocked. I really think we'll make the tournament next year and be a massively improved team. I saw a lot of good calls during games, a lot of improvement, ball movement. These guys, look, Todd Golden cannot go out there on the court and hit shots for these guys. I mean, he can't play the game for them. He called a successful defense, he called a successful offense. The guys could not execute. And that was the big issue this year. We lose Castleton towards the end of the season. That really hurt. I thought some guys stepped up though, and there's a nice nucleus there of guys like Kugel, um, and some of these other guys to make up for next year. To really, Richard, good 3-point shooter. I just think we're going to have a successful year next year. One thing that I'm not happy about next year: Utah's August 31st. It's a Thursday night game. Florida's a Saturday football team. I hate it. I mean, first of all, I guess it doesn't matter. It's all the way across the country in Utah, but I don't think Florida fans will travel well for that one. Being on a Thursday night, I think it's because of weather, just travel conditions, the way they've been now. Airlines is a nightmare. So I kind of understand it from a logistics standpoint, but from a fan standpoint, it just sucks being on a Thursday night, a work week. I hate it. I don't know why they set it up this way. I would have rather it been a Friday night game than a Thursday night game. But yeah, that's where we're at, I guess, now at Florida. We're playing a Thursday night game. That's for mid-tier schools, in my opinion. It really sucks. That's especially such a marquee matchup, such a massive game. The only good thing in recruiting wise, we'll have the spotlight. We'll be the only game on TV probably, so it'll be a primetime game, primetime TV slot. But I hate it on August 31st. So Billy Gonzalez is hired back as wide receivers coach. I think this is actually a good hire. He did land some decent wide receiver transfers. Van Jefferson. Um, Jacob Copeland was a big time prospect as a recruit. Obviously, he was recruited by McElwain as well. But I thought he held on to some good guys. I thought he recruited some decent players. Obviously, his recruiting was pretty average. It definitely wasn't elite. But throughout his career, he's recruited some elite guys. He's a tactician. I mean, he's an elite coach. We had a very good wide receiver corps with him here. Not that they kind of dropped off after he left. So I think that he can come in and really improve this roster and the success of the wide receiver room. And I do think Billy will hold him to a higher standard, and he will get out there and have something to prove. He was at FAU before this. I think Mullen kind of tarnished his career a little bit, but I could really see him taking off and killing it on the recruiting trail under this staff with the way they set up and the way they push. So I like it. I like the hire. It could have been worse for sure. Could have been better. Yes, absolutely. But I don't hate the hire. I like it better than the other two hires, if you want to be honest with you. The only one I'm kind of equal with this hire on is Armstrong. Young guy, something to prove, up and comer again. Yes, there probably was better choices out there, more proven guys for a defensive coordinator. But man, all the reports out of practice, I love the guy. I think it's a good hire. I think it'll pay dividends down the road. The biggest issue is we don't know what these guys are as recruiters. Same thing with Callaway at tight ends. We just have to see how that goes. Um, so we'll see. I mean, a practice reports are positive as a coach. I think he's an upgrade over Peagler. But we'll have to see what he does on the trail. It can't be any worse than what we already had. Peagler was sucking on the trail, wasn't getting anything done. So again, these are pretty average hires, but they have tons of potential. So I'm not super disappointed. Hiring in football right now is a different game. Um, I don't want to retread. I would actually rather have someone new, someone with something to prove, a chip on their shoulder, an up and comer, than just an old retread that's failed, succeeded, failed, succeeded. I don't want to see that. People that talk about Charlie Strong and all this stuff. Man, come on, like get out of the past. All right, this isn't the Tim Tebow years. Let's move on. Get some young blood in there. So I like the hire so far. Like I said, they could be a lot worse. Jaden Hill at a spring practice has been moved to the star position. I like that spot. Super athletic guy. A little small there, but again, I mean, the guy's fully healthy now. All reports is he looks like the old Jaden Hill, proven veteran there. I like his presence at that spot. Big communicator. Spot that has to communicate a lot, move around a lot. He's a very high IQ football player. So I love Jaden Hill. Jadarius Perkins, I was always high on. I always thought he should have gotten way more snaps than Tre'Vez Johnson. So I like those two guys rotating at the star position. I think that's going to be an upgrade, and you're going to see better play out of the star spot from Florida next year. But man, that's huge for me. Damian George is going to be our starting right tackle. Some people are saying Goodwin. I don't think so. I think it's Damian George to start the season. Barber at left tackle. Makuza, right guard. Richie Leonard, left guard. Center. As of right now, it's Kingsley, but I think that Jake Slaughter, will end up beating him out or rotating at that position throughout spring, and that's going to be a really tight battle. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Kingsley's name has not been brought up. Slaughter's name has been. And, you get those all the time during the spring. You get the spring wonders, they come out, you hear all these names and rave reviews, and then they just ghost in the fall and don't do anything. So I actually think that this isn't that. Offensive line coaches are a little different. They don't just hype guys up for no reason. I think that if Kingsley struggles, I think you could see Slaughter get in there and take some of those snaps. That's a good sign. That means we're at least 8 deep now on the offensive line. I think by fall we'll have 10 guys, and that's what we need. I'm not even worried about offensive line at this point. Andy Jean is the star of spring. He, as a must, out of necessity, will play and probably start day one at wide receiver. And that's not just out of need. It's because he's just that good. Andy Jean is literally like a mini Amari Cooper with Antonio Callaway vibes mixed in there. So, him and Ricky Persall, I love this wide receiver corps. It's definitely an upgrade. I feel better about the position than I did last year. So, offensive line, running back, receiver, we're already looking at upgrading the offense at those spots. Again, I love the vibes and the energy from DC Armstrong. His interview was excellent, very detailed interview, in depth, very well spoken, high energy guy. Um, Love the way he talks about his defense. You can tell he's very smart. Um, he says he's not going to change a lot. Basically, a 4-2. It says 3-3-5, but they're basically a 4-2 defense. I love that. That is a much better defense to defend offense, in my opinion, than what we had been doing. A lot of times we were running 4-2, 4-3 defense. A lot of time with three linebackers on the field. Um, but again, I like the setup. I like what we got on the defensive line. Although the offensive line has dominated spring practice, I think that these guys will get better. I still think we've got a decent defensive line. I don't know that I'm completely sold yet on it being much better than last year, but I do think it'll be improved from last year. I don't think you can get any worse, honestly, but I just have a lot of questions on defense. We took a lot of transfers like Nunnery at linebacker and some of these other guys. Obviously, Shamar James struggled last year. Rave reviews about him, with that clean and jerk and just, excelling as a leader, excelling in the weight room. So, a lot of positive there. Mertz, positive reviews. Footwork looks good. Patient in the pocket. Obviously, there's no pressure, no pads on right now, so take it for what it's worth. He's a veteran, played 4 years of football. His footwork's going to look good. He's going to be patient and look like a leader out there. He's a lunch pail type of guy. That stereotype, goes to work every day. First one in, last one out type thing. Usually that spells, Del Rio, Appleby type player to me. I'm not sold. I know y'all like Mertz and like his potential. I think with what's around him, he can be successful. He does have more playmakers and better weapons, probably a better offensive line than what he had at Wisconsin. I do think he'll put up decent numbers, and we'll go. We have the potential to go 8-4. We also have the potential to end the season with 6 wins again. I think with him, the ceiling is 8 wins right now, still at this point, especially with the defense. And what's coming in? I still hope they get another quarterback. They said they will be in the market end of May, or actually it's the first part of May. Transfer portal opens back up. Probably going to bring in another scholarship guy to compete and push. So we'll just have to see what happens there. Probably be the loser of a battle at another school. But I hope and pray that that's what Florida does, because I think we need it. We need more talent at that position. We need somebody that can push him, because you can tell that basically they're already sold on Mertz as far as what's in the room now. I mean, Miller, yeah, they gave him a little bit of praise. Guy's been in the system, got some experience, but man, he's just not that talented. Physically, not that gifted. Arm strength isn't great, and just not much of a threat. Y'all saw him in the bowl game. I don't think he can improve much more on what he did in that bowl game. I think that's kind of what he is. Even though I think he could do a little bit better, I think backup quarterback is scary to me. We need some depth. That's why we need to go get another guy. Even if Mertz is our guy and he does well, that's great. We got to have somebody behind him that can come in and not be a massive drop-off. Max Brown, I do believe by the end of fall, this kid is the number 2 quarterback on this roster. I think he takes that spot from Jack Miller. All reports are he's throwing the ball a lot better this year, looks a lot better this year, put on some size and just really, really spinning the football much better. He had mechanical issues last year. He's very much a project, but he's a project with a ton of upside and potential. So I think he's likely the number 2 quarterback, and we'll just have to see how things progress with him. I'm not going to make any, big, bold predictions or takes here. But I like Max Brown. I like his athletic ability. He's probably got the most potential of all the quarterbacks on the roster right now. Low-rated guy, but put up big numbers in high school. Definitely a running threat. He's not rushing his throws, shows experience, still no pressure, like I said. Tight end, the future tight end to me is Livingston and Boardingham. Livingston took a gray shirt and just came in, but man, does he have the size. 6'4", 220, 230. Definitely has the size to play tight end. Very, very athletic. Just very raw. Doesn't know football. He played a couple years of football. Was injured. So he's probably not going to contribute for a couple years. But man, when he gets on the field and he learns the playbook and learns to block and everything, this kid's going to be a freak. I think there's some talent there with those two guys. I think Boardingham's your starter. Zip and Odom are going to be rotating in as far as blocking goes. Boardingham needs to develop there. But passing threat, it's going to be Arliss Boardingham show next year, guys. I really think you're going to see that guy put up some good numbers if we actually throw to a tight end more than 3 or 4 times throughout his season. My prediction is, and I'm hoping Napier's not so, bland on high schoolish on offense that he won't, develop it more than he did. I really want to see that tight end get involved in the passing game and see a screen game. And when I say screen game, not a quick out, to the wide receiver, a stand pass, out to the sideline. That kind of screen game sucks. Like, everybody knows it from a mile away what's coming. I want to see offensive line, a running back break free and hit him over the middle for that screen. You know what I mean? That's what we didn't see zilch of last year. That's got to get implemented in this offense. That could have really bailed Anthony Richardson out a ton of times. Like I said, hires. What else I have here? Oh, Kearney. I didn't even talk about Kearney. Kearney's running with the twos right now on the offensive line. So there you go. Some of that talent already getting in there. Some of that young blood. Really, really, really like Roderick Kearney. They say he's the most developed of anybody that came in. I could actually see him next year getting in the mix at guard if some of the other guys struggle by the end of the year. But next year, that kid's probably a starter on this offensive line, probably pushing somebody for a spot. Barber's doing really well. Nobody on the offensive line has struggled at all in practice. George's just a massive human being. Makuza, they say, basically high football IQ and very physical. Everything you want in an offensive line. So tight end, Boardingham, Odom, Zip. I actually like Odom's upside. I think you're going to see good things out of Odom next year at the tight end spot. Look for Hayden Hanson to get in there as a blocker as well. He's probably developed a ton. Haven't heard his name a lot yet, but wide receiver starting is probably Pearsall, Andy Jean, Henderson as of right now. And, man, I think when Eugene Wilson gets on campus, that guy steals the show, and he's a starter next year. If he's not game one by a couple games in, I think you see Eugene Wilson on the field quite a bit. That kid is just electric with the football. You'd be stupid not to get the ball in his hands early and often throughout the season as long as he's healthy. Running back, obviously, Trevor looks great. Montrell's look great. Those guys, another year in the system, another year under their belt, are going to be freaks next year. I think the running game is just going to take off. I'd like to see even more creativity out of that. You got Carroll that came in. He's actually been injured, non-contact jersey. So, again, as far as practice goes, haven't been able to see a ton from him. But rave reviews, smart guy, really bringing Trayvon Webb along. He's way behind right now. He's going to take a red shirt. Probably going to be a couple years before he sees the field until these other guys leave. Now, Cam Carroll, I could actually see him getting some snaps, believe it or not. I could see him getting the ball on goal line situations throughout the year and actually getting a couple carries a game. He's a really good running back. I actually think he's a little different, change of pace than the other guys. He's a bigger guy, power guy, and still has a little finesse and wiggle to him. So I like Carroll to get a couple snaps and surprise some people. Special teams, obviously, going to be really good there. So as far as that goes, guys, that's pretty much all I got today. As far as spring practice goes, I haven't heard much else for many of the positions. Safety's obviously thin. We need another transfer there. They've had to move some guys over, like Weston from receiver. Tight end still needs more depth, more talent. They had to move Salvani from defensive line. Seems like we've had to do that the last couple years, moving guys over just to create depth. So recruiting's lacking there. So you see it in the coaching changes. All right, guys, everybody have a good day. I'll have another update soon. Go Gators.